How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. In today's video, we're breaking down everything that happened in Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 29. An episode in which we got the epic Erika-Ishii standoff. We find out Fearne and Ruidus born, and Matt Mercer finally reveals the grand plot for Critical Role Campaign 3. As always, if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out some of our other Critical Role content. Okay, let's just get right into it, shall we? Okay, so last week's episode ended off with the epic Erika-Ishii Dusk reveal. I guess I shouldn't say Dusk anymore because apparently her name is You. Yeah, You. The episode begins with this big standoff, which I'm genuinely surprised didn't go to combat earlier. Honestly, though, am I really that surprised? I'm genuinely curious what you guys think about this. Personally, I think if Yu's character was an NPC and not run by another guest, I think that the party would have been way more willing to go to combat, possibly even kill this character, but because it's played by a guest, they want to interact with it more. And to Erika-Ishii's credit and her character Yu's motivation, for some reason she doesn't attack a single person there. Possibly the character was just smart enough to know that as a combat scenario probably wouldn't have ended well for her. Let's be honest, even if Erika's character was a good 3-4 levels above the party, it's still like, what, 7 against 1? There's no way she's winning that. Eventually, the party managed to wrestle both Birdie and Yu and get a conversation going. Imogen casts Detect Thoughts on Birdie, getting another insane Matt Mercer whisper. Look at this Laura reaction. Learning that apparently Birdie is intimately familiar with the Nightmare King. If you don't remember, the Nightmare King was the Fae creature that was running experiments back earlier in the campaign. The party continuously questioned Birdie on her motivation and just what the fuck is going on, as Yu's made her intentions very clear. She's been sent here by the Unseelie and the Seelie court. Apparently there's 2 courts, didn't actually know that, to assassinate the Callaways and return an item in which they stole, the Moontide Crown. It's just then that Matt and Birdie drop a massive lore dump on us, telling us that Fearne is in fact Ruidus born. She was born in Exandria, and the reason that they left Fearne with her grandmother, who's not really her grandmother, we find out, is because they were worried about her safety. The parents had discovered that there was a group within the Unseelie court that seems to be doing some kind of experimentation or some kind of manipulation of the Moon of Ruidus, as recently the Moon of Ruidus has begun shutting its light into the Feywild. It just so happens that this started to occur around 7 years ago, conspicuously around the time when Campaign 2 ended. We also learned that Fearne's father has been experiencing his own set of visions, kind of similar to Imogen's, but in his visions, he sees the Feywild burning, and at the center of it all is Fearne. Now, I got some theories for what this possibly could mean, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Birdie admits that they did in fact steal this artifact, the Moontide Crown, as there was a group within the Unseelie court that was working with a group of Exandrians. We come to find out that this is Otan, the woman in Imogen's dream. They're working on some kind of device within Exandria so they can better understand Ruidus, possibly even stop it. Because also we learn, God, we just learned so many things this episode. We learned that in 1 month from now, an Apogee Solstice is coming to Exandria. If you're hearing Apogee Solstice and wondering why does that word sound familiar, I'll tell you, it's because Apogee Solstice was intrinsically linked to the events in EXU Calamity. An Apogee Solstice is an extremely rare solstice in Exandria. A solstice so powerful that great works of magic are only capable during its time. As well, during the Apogee Solstice, the barriers between the planes become incredibly thin. Power of the Apogee Solstice was used to reroute the ley lines of Exandria, making them go wherever, any way that they wanted them to go. Now, we're going to talk about more about the Apogee Solstice and my potential theories later in the video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Essentially, all this boils down to bad news. It seems now the campaign is on a clock, one that adds a huge sense of urgency, one that I think that this campaign really needed, as we talked about in our Why Campaign 3 Has a Problem video. Eventually, the party managed to buy some time, essentially, from you, Erika Ishii's character. I really want to give Ashley Johnson a lot of props here, as she was the one that kind of initiated the whole conflict here, as she plunged her flame blade into Yu's stomach. Besides Aurum, basically the only characters willing to actually do damage and attack, so I gotta give these guys props for really playing their characters, because I know in situations like this, it's gonna be really hard to be like, not control your out of character feelings of like, I don't want to kill this other player character at the table, especially when, like we said, Yu was not being violent or attacking anyone the whole entire time besides Birdie. Birdie tells them as well that she has a friend named Hondir, a small goblin fellow who's been apparently researching this moon of Ruidus, as they are a member of the Grim Variety, this group of people who have been intrinsically studying the moon, the ones that have been attacked by these strange gray assassins. We learned that Hondir, in fact, knew the Lumos twins, as well as Imogen's mother. Apparently, Imogen's mother was just as gifted as Imogen in visions and ability of using her psionic psychic powers given to her from the moon. We also learned that these gray assassins have apparently killed almost half of the Grim Variety, trying to stop them into, I guess, presumably learning whatever they are trying to learn about the moon. It's theorized then by the party members that the gray assassins might be Oton's people that Imogen are seeing in her dream. I'm not really sure the validity of that, but it would make kind of sense if we're looking at it and Oton is trying to work towards whatever goal the moon might have, and the Grim Variety would eventually probably discover that role, whatever it is, and they would want to stop them. I can see how this could possibly make sense, but we just don't have enough evidence to really confirm that. Again, the group begins to talk about the works being done in the Feywild between Oton and these Fey creatures in the Unsteely Court. Apparently, they're harnessing the power of the moon in such a way. We know that the moon of Ruidus gives strong powers to those potentially born under the moon of Ruidus, as we've seen with Imogen, as well as Elixion, a very important character in Critical Role lore. It seems that something bigger might be going on here, though, as Hondir informs us that they had a friend, another scholar, that was recently in Vasselheim. There, they had procured a set of documents dating all the way back to the founding. Documents that don't seem to reference the existence of Ruidus, implying that at Exandria's founding, Ruidus wasn't there, that it was somehow created later. As well, there seems to be texts that indicate the existence of two other gods that are not listed anywhere else in the text of Exandria that they know of. Okay, obviously a bunch of theories instantly pop out, the most obvious and I think the most compelling of which is that there was some sort of schism, no pun intended, between the gods here before the actual schism and then the calamity that followed. And possibly these two gods were imprisoned in what became the moon of Ruidus. Now, this is one of many other theories, which we're going to get into, but I think this is probably the most cohesive theory and the best theory that we have so far. Okay, time for the best part of the video, unraveled speculation time. So there's a bunch of ideas. We know the power and the capability of the Apogee Solstice. This seems to be the goal that Oton and her followers are working towards. So we got big magic things going on. Now, what could these things be? Another theory that pops into my mind is that they're trying to use the power of the Apogee Solstice to move the ley lines of Exandria to keep Ruidus burning brightly in the sky permanently, forever. Now, this could have a ton of effects, like 1, the birth of more Ruidus children, 2, the enhancement of Ruidus powers, possibly making all of these Ruidus-born people, like, even more super soldiery, hence why we see this group of massive an army that comes out from Imogen's dream, right? Now, if we further extend this, we know that Ruidus gives these psionic, psychic type abilities. So what if then Ruidus being in the sky in this Apogee Solstice when it's super juiced up, because like we said before, we know that the planes, the shifting between planes becomes very thin as well during this time. What if then Ruidus could possibly mind control a Ruidus-born folk? This could possibly explain why it is that Fearne's father sees Fearne in his dreams being almost the source of this destruction of the Feywild. We don't think this Fearne would do this by her choice willingly, obviously, but what if it was somehow like a brain-controlled type thing? This would seem to further explain why, again, Oton has this massive army in her dream, because presumably this army would be of Ruidus-born people, but we know that not all Ruidus-born people have powers. One, the level of the powers given to Ruidus-born people varies greatly. Wait, hold up. One other thing I just thought of. If Fearne is Ruidus-born, wouldn't that mean that she's supposed to bear certain markings on her body, or is that not an inconsistency? I remember when we talked about Oton and we first got Oton's description a few episodes ago, she's covering certain parts of her body, very obviously trying to cover these lightning scar marks that we see on Imogen. We see it in her fan art, and we see her talk about it. I'm curious if this is going to come around. Maybe she does have markings and we just don't know about it. I just literally just thought of this right now, so we're gonna have to come back to this. And then there's the issue of the two missing deities. Now, a lot of people are speculating that possibly this is the two primordials we saw from EXU Calamity. Possibly one of these deities is the former god of death. Possibly one of these deities is Tharizdun. But I'm afraid to say none of these theories are it. They don't make sense. They all can be solved. I highly doubt it's the two primordials, as primordials have never been really referred to as deities from any of our knowledge in any text or anything further before. They've always referred to them as deities. Number two, it's most likely not the former god of death that the Raven Queen replaced, because that god of death was completely zilch, gone from history, no mention ever again, all the way removed, destroyed, dead as doesn't seem like they would imprison this god in the moon. It doesn't really make sense. So our theory then is two gods that are unknown to us, or possibly gods that are in the world of Fearune that Matt will implement somehow, as this is kind of a lot of how his gods are. We could do some theories into that later on. We probably will. So then we have these two nameless gods that for whatever reason, the other prime deities and betrayer gods, before they were the betrayer gods, imprisoned into the moon of Ruidus. We can then venture to believe that they would want to escape from this moon in some way. Probably why then they've sent these dreams to Oton. Oton then is kind of like a Lucian-esque figure from Campaign 2, sent this mission, probably promised power, and is working towards a greater goal by a greater deity. It's possible then that the Apogee Solstice could be the release of these gods from the moon of Ruidus onto Exandria, onto the material plane, which would be a really, really bad problem to have, seeing as the Divine Gate exists, meaning that no other deity could get into Exandria to stop them. It would literally be up to the people of Exandria to stop these two roving deities. As well, we know that Ruidus has some planar shifting-esque powers with the story of Elixion, a warrior in the Calamity that was Ruidus-born, who stopped an attack from Gromj on the city of Kael Morro, and when they did so, his Ruidus-born powers flared, as the city of Kael Morro, when he blocked this attack from Gromj, sunk into the ground and tore a planar rift that we know of as the Netherdeep. It's very possible that this whole situation is going to make its appearance in Critical Role at some point. I would be absolutely shocked if it doesn't, seeing as it's the main point of Matt's newest book and is intrinsically linked to the moon of Ruidus. So look out for Elixion in the future. So then, to retrack my theory, the moon of Ruidus is the prison for two deities that were unknown, mentioned at the time of the founding, as the moon of Ruidus was not discovered until sometime after the founding. We know that the moon gives psionic-like abilities. We know that the moon gives dreams. We know that there is a person known as Oton who seems to be actively working towards the goals of the moon of Ruidus, as we see in Imogen's dream that they will bring the destruction of the world and even of the Feywild to Exandria. We know that an Apogee Solstice is coming within a month, a super powerful solstice that allows for the shifting of ley lines and grand works of magic to be performed. It only makes sense then that at this Apogee Solstice, whether Oton knows it or not, they'll be releasing these two deities from their prison, the moon of Ruidus, or at the very least unleashing their powers onto Exandria. We know that Ruidus has the power to manipulate planar energies, as we've seen with the story of Elixion. Therefore, during the Apogee Solstice, it's possible the ley lines could be reshifted, leaving Ruidus in the sky, possibly mind-controlling a bunch of Ruidus-born people to greater works of evil, or possibly ripping a tear, merging the planes together, possibly the Feywild merging with the prime material plane, things of this nature. Now, that was a lot of speculation, and I obviously could be wrong about half of this, and I probably am wrong about half of this, but I'm almost positive that there's some gods trapped in the moon of Ruidus. But I guess we're going to have to wait for more information to find out. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your Moon of Ruidus and Ruidus theories in the comments down below. Make sure you go check out other content like Thursday's video, What is Aor, the city that nearly destroyed the gods. As always, guys, thank you all for watching my videos. I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Peace, love. Adieu.